Hello, I thought I'd do a video here to show my Parkzone Sport Cub and some of the modifications and upgrades that I've done to it over the last few months. I bought it in June of 2014 and now it's January of 2015, and I've been following the forums on RC groups for this plane, and I've implemented some of the modifications that other people have done, as well as maybe one or two of my own, and I thought I'd just take this video and maybe cover a few of those, so in case other people might want to use them as a starting point for some of their own modifications. So one of the first things I did was I upgraded the speed controller to a Hobby King 35 amp speed controller, and like most people, the reason I did that was so that I could run a bigger prop. So what I installed was, this is a TGS 10x7 electric prop from Hobby King, but I've also used the APC prop 10x7 electric, and I just had to file out the spinner a bit, the plastic spinner. I just used a file and open it up a little bit, and it fits the blade profile just fine. Another thing I did was I added, like a lot of people, I added the optional flaps. I just put in the flaps around and installed the flaps. And one thing I did was I just used a slow acting servo, a Hobby King slow acting servo, same one that's used on my Durafly Spitfire, so that I have slow flap actuation. Another thing you can see that I did was I took some checkerboard, I made up my own checkerboard labels, laser printed them, or inkjet printed them rather, and did the tail section as well as the wheel pants, or the wheel fairings. So kind of like the way it looked. Wasn't that hard to do. So let's see, I've got the ESC prop upgraded, I put on my checkerboard, I did the flaps, and here's another thing I did. If I flip this over, and this is actually an idea, or I basically just took an idea that I've seen on YouTube. Douglas Snyder, a YouTube Parkzone owner, I actually took got this idea from him. What he did was he took half-inch streamlined tubing available from Horizon Hobby, and he just made up his own aluminum struts. And the nice thing about that is it greatly, and I've seen this myself, I know that's what his main reason for doing it was, to reduce the vibration in the wings, between the wing and the fuselage, so making it a lot better platform for wing cameras and that sort of thing. So I did exactly the same way he did it. I bought the streamlined tubing. The difference is I used 3/8 tubing, where he used half-inch tubing. So there it is, there's the tubing. You just crimp the ends, and then you just I just used some basswood, you know, some sort of hard wood, cut a strip of that on each side, exactly like he did, and just replace the sort of double plastic struts with this single aluminum strut that does a much better job of stiffening the wing and reducing vibration in flight. And I've put my E-flite wing camera on, and it's quite noticeable, the improvement with the with the reduced vibration. The other upgrade I did, I guess you could say add-on that I did, was I bought the Hobby Zone floats from the Super Cub, and of course that's the recommended float set for this aircraft as well. And as you can see, along with the floats, I added on the same checkerboard, red and white checkerboard scheme for the labels, and I like the way it looked. Took a little bit of work, but I think it looks pretty nice. It's one of my wintertime projects. And another thing that I did, I know a lot of people have sort of tinkered around with different solutions as far as adding water rudders go. I added my own water rudders. And I'll include the complete set of parts list for the water rudder upgrade in the description below. But what I did basically, in a nutshell, what I did was I took Traxxas waterproof servos, they're 2080s here, 2080 servos, 2 of them, and I added dual water rudder servos. And I'll hook them up in a minute, but they work great. You know, I'm really happy with the way they turned out. I just, you know, used them, set them up, cut into the foam, mounted the servos, drilled through the foam, and on the bottom set up the hardware, and I'll show you the part number for the links that I used for the rudder and the associated linkage, and then ran the cabling through. What I did was I have a, like I said, like you can see, I have a servo on each side, and then I just run the cabling up, have it nice and tidy, more or less. And I've got my receiver connections that I can just plug into the battery bay of the plane. Okay, so here I've got my water rudders here, my floats set up. They're electrically connected again, but I didn't bother fully installing them, but you can get the idea of the operation of the water rudders for illustration purposes. So here I go with my transmitter, and you can see I get a decent amount of throw in each direction, and all I did was add those 2 servos to the rudder channel, so they just work in conjunction with my air rudder, with the tail rudder. And like I said, I have about 60 flights on water, and they work great. You know, not too much control, but they give me very responsive, very accurate control, and great handling on water. And like I said, I have about 60 flights. So that's my water rudder upgrade. So there you have it. There's my Sport Cub. It's got about 360 flights now as of the end of January 2015. I'm really happy with the way it performs, especially with the upgraded prop. And yeah, it's just as far as float flying goes, I think it's quite necessary to have the 10x7 prop for me, and because the floats add quite a bit of weight, and as well as I need my full flaps for takeoff. I use full flaps for takeoff, and that's quite necessary, I find, because it's a real struggle to take off without the flaps. But all in all, I'm really happy with my Sport Cub, and I hope that that you find some of these ideas useful. The other thing that I'm considering is an LED lights, nav lights, LED light packages. I've seen them on Horizon Hobby and Hobby King, and my only concern is I'm not sure if I want to, you know, if it's worth adding extra weight, even if it's a very small amount of weight. I'm trying to keep the weight down as much as possible. But anyway, I hope you enjoy your Sport Cub. I'm definitely enjoying mine, and okay, happy flying.